Okay, good evening, everybody. Apologize for starting a little late, but here we are. This is the Town of New Canaan Town Council regular meeting, including public hearing for Wednesday, April 22nd, 2026, at 7:05 p.m. So why don't we go to agenda item number one, which is the Pledge of Allegiance.
I'll do it.
Hey, all right. Let's see.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, let's get the roll call.
Okay. Janet Ponce, I'm here. Lena Lee. Oh, she is. Okay, great. Mike Morrow.
Here.
Maria Naughton. No. Kim Norton.
Here.
Hillary Armand.
Here.
Mike Rogers.
Here.
Christina Ross. Is she online? No. Okay. Heather Russell.
Here.
Online. Eric Tunham.
He's not here tonight.
Penny Young.
Here.
Jen Zonas.
Here.
Here. Okay, we have a quorum.
Okay. Okay, moving on. We'll now call the meeting to order. Let's number two, minutes, approval of the minutes for the regular meeting held on April 14th, 2026. I will make that motion for approval. Can I have a second?
Second.
Hillary seconds. We will now open it for discussion. Are there any edits or comments to the minutes from April 14, 2026? No? Okay, we'll move to vote. All in favor of the motion? Motion passes unanimously. All right, so just a quick thing to move things along expeditiously to accommodate everyone that's here. We're going to make a few adjustments to the agenda. I'm going to move up, instead of the public comment section, I'm going to just move, I'm telling you what I'm going to do and I'll make the motion. We're going to move the labor agreements portion of the evening up next. So that'll be agenda item number 4. Then we will then go to public comments. Then after public comments, we will move the bonding resolution at 7. We'll move that up above the public hearing for the parking commission discussion. And then after that, we'll go to the bylaws and ordinances portion of the evening. So we can kind of move things along, and folks that don't want to stick around for the awesomeness of these meetings can move it along. All right. So I'm going to make them. All right. So I'll just keep it short. I'll make the motion to amend the agenda to move labor agreements up to number 3 on the agenda, putting public comments on at number 4. Number 7 will become number 5. Public hearing becomes number 6. Bylaws and ordinances becomes number 7. Got all that? Yes? No? Yes? Raise of hands?
Second.
Okay. So all in favor of that motion? All right. Motion passes unanimously. So let's go to new number 3, which is labor agreements. To approve labor agreements with New Canaan Police Union, National Fraternal Order of Police, Lodge 042, for the years of July 1, 2025 to June 30, 2029, and New Canaan Fire Union, Local 3224, International Association of Firefighters, for the years of July 1, 2025 to June 30, 2029. 10 minutes by Cheryl Jones, but I don't think we need 10 minutes.
Thank you. I would like to introduce who I have here tonight. First is Attorney Chris Hodson. He is online. Next to me is Chief John DiFrederico, Chief Albie Bassett, and Assistant Chief William Parrott. I am happy to be here tonight to ask for approval on the fire police contracts. The main drivers of the contract are salary and benefits. The salaries are below 12% over 4 years, and we were able to negotiate in a 95% co-insurance in the last year of the contract. In both contracts, there are increases in stipends and uniforms. Both unions have ratified this contract tonight, and I'm asking the Town Council to ratify these 2 tentative agreements. Once ratified, the First Selectman will sign the documents. All contracts will be available online. Any questions?
Maybe I'll just toss it up to our labor negotiator. Chris, if you wouldn't mind, just for very briefly, explain 30,000-foot level of what was achieved at the bargaining table, and you did achieve the objectives that you were charged with.
Thank you, Chair. It's a very competitive market for police and fire. And recruitment and retention is the name of the game. So many towns have negotiated wage packages well in excess of 3% a year. We were able to reach our objective of negotiating a package that on average is slightly less than 3% a year, but very fair to the officers that and the firemen, that we were able to offer fringes and also keep premium share relatively flat. Also to make operational changes that benefit the chiefs and pay the personnel fairly. So the unions seemed content with these agreements, and I think it's a good result for the town.
Thank you, Chris. Are there any questions or comments from members of town council? With that said, and just kind of to draw close to this, and my background, part of my legal background is a management side labor negotiator in the private sector. But having looked at this agreement in the public sector, which has a little bit different rules, I think it's a really good deal for the membership, management. I think the first selectman and her team, including everyone up here, did a really great job. Our labor negotiator is extremely well regarded in the labor community and did a great job here. So I'm prepared to vote to approve both contracts. So without any other questions, I'll bring it to a vote. All good? All right. All in favor of, oh, Penny, sorry.
I will vote in the affirmative with gratitude to all of your extraordinary concern about our community and our safety. And we're also very comfortable with what you do for us. And thank you.
Yeah, the second that, being a son of a New York City police officer, I definitely get, you guys putting your lives on the line, and women, day in and day out. You never know if you're coming back. Seriously, I know that. Okay, so with that said, so I will make a motion for the approval of both the contracts for the union and police. I'm sorry, fire and police, set forth in agenda item number 3 as amended. So can I get a second to that motion? Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor? All right, the motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, so we'll now move to a new agenda item number 4, which is public comments. Members of the public are welcome to speak to the town council on agenda topics scheduled for review and/or vote. Speakers are required to provide their name and street address, and comments will be limited to 2 to 3 minutes, subject to the total number of speakers. We'll start first in the audience right now, and then we'll move to online. So do we have a prepared list?
Yes.
So please, if you are speaking, step up to the microphone. Please sit down, get yourself comfortable. Please pull the microphone close as possible so everyone here can hear you, but even more importantly, the members out in TV world can hear you. And we really do enforce the 3-minute rule. So, but we very much appreciate your comments. With that said, state your name and your address.
Bucco, 337 Springwater Lane, New Canaan. First of all, I want to thank the City Council for the opportunity to speak on the issue of these, gas-powered leaf blowers. For too many residents in our community, these machines turn tranquil neighborhoods into stressful neighborhoods. But more importantly, they release pollutants that have been linked to respiratory diseases. Some research suggests 1 hour of use equates to driving a car for a number of miles, hundreds of miles. So I urge the council to pass the resolution with the hard surface restriction. This will reduce noise, stress, provide cleaner air, and an overall better quality of life for our town, as it has for many of the other neighboring towns that have adopted similar proposals. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, please. Again, and I'll just remind everyone every time, just make sure that microphone's close so everyone can hear.
I don't know if I need a microphone, Mike. What do you think?
Yeah, probably not, but
Yeah.
let's be,
Fair enough.
let's be nice.
What's that?
Nothing. I'm saying anything.
Hi, everybody. Whoa.
Really?
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, thank you very much.
Well, first of all, I'm Lars Anderson, 351 Springwater Lane. Thanks again for allowing us to comment again. I'm kind of feeling like there's been meeting after meeting and letter after letter written about this topic, and it's going on and on and on. We've presented factual scientific evidence about the negative and harmful effects that landscaping businesses are having on the use of our properties and our health. The people, which I consider a vocal majority, have written in or shown up in person pleading with you to bring some common sense to this problem. A problem created entirely by unregulated for-profit companies that are doing business in our town. Opposition is throwing out falsehoods and instilling fear about rising costs. They're all looking for special dispensation. Well, not they're all, but they're looking for special dispensation because they live on large lots. The rules shouldn't apply to them. We also hear about our neighbors in Westchester. We can't compare to them because they're in New York and our landscaping needs are unique. Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't agree with that argument. Noise and air pollution don't respect property lines or state geographic boundaries. Yet time goes on. Movement began on this in 2021, and here we are again talking about it some more, with Memorial Day just 5 weeks away. I fear that those on the opposing side of this proposal are going to come out now and say that there's not enough time for the landscapers to adjust, and that we should delay another month, which is going to turn into another month, and then it's going to turn into another year. I think the budget might have been passed with less public input than what you're seeing on leaf blowers, which to me is kind of incredible. The proposal, the well-written proposal, is a short 2.5-page document. And I have to ask, I mean, what's taking so long? Anyway, are there any landscapers in the room? Anyway, if there were landscapers in the room, I kind of feel like they're not reading the room and understanding what the citizenry in town are trying to tell them. Everybody's ticked off. And to a man or woman, anybody, when you mention leaf blower noise, uses some rather profound expletives to define their hatred in these machines. They're all complaining about costs and trying to scare us into thinking that their services are just, the cost of services is going to skyrocket without gas-powered leaf blowers. But they're not coming up with solutions. They're just complaining about their business problems. I think they need to turn this into a positive and be good citizens and start to self-govern. I haven't heard any solutions from these guys at all. Oftentimes I can drive down the street and there's multiple operators with blowers running around chasing a small pile of leaves. And frankly, I could have done the job faster. I'm 68 years old. I could have done the job faster with a rake, so I don't know, it's just a lot of excessive use. I did some cost analysis on the web and found out that the cost of running a 3-blower crew for over 5 years, gas came to $18,750. Electric came to $82.50. If I do the math right, that's over $10,000 of savings a year. $10,000 in savings over 5 years, or $2,000 annually. I think if my landscaper raised my rates because he had to switch to electric, I'd ask for a rebate. In closing, I'm going to throw a monkey wrench in the works, and I'm going to ask you to consider asking seasonal restrictions from the spring to the fall. I'm not sure what makes sense, but the Conservation Committee had something about October 1st to sometime in December, but I would suggest October 1st to the Friday before Thanksgiving. And in the spring, April 1 through Mother's Day. And this could be what's the right word? It could just diminish over time, whatever, change over time. There's also been some complaints. This doesn't really flow with my document, but I wanted to throw it in there.
Lars, if I may, I appreciate everything you're saying. I do have limits I can go over a little bit. So if you wouldn't mind.
Another 30 seconds.
Yeah, too.
Just because other towns are enacting leaf blower ordinances doesn't mean that we need to do that. And I agree 100% with that statement, but we can learn from them. We could call them and ask them, get on a phone, have a meeting, find out what's working, find out what's not working, and we can fine tune our proposals. So anyway, that's all I got. I urge you to pass this with flying colors and let's move forward and get on with our lives.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
And again, like I said, we try to keep it to 3 minutes. If you need a little over, that's fine.
I
We
appreciate that.
yeah, no. Listen, you're citizens and residents, and you're absolutely up. Have the right to be heard, but we've got our processes and we got to keep things moving. Thank you very much. Again, just keep the microphone close to you.
Hello, my name is Ulrika Veraude. I live in 31 Norholt Drive, New Canaan.
Mike, please.
Yeah, you could pull it closer if it's too much.
The public to hear what you're saying.
Ulrika Veraude, 31 Norholt Drive in New Canaan. Thank you for having this hearing. This is the first time I'm at a meeting here in Town Hall and speaking as well. I'm very excited to be here to talk about something I'm really passionate about, because where I come from, Europe, we don't really use leaf blowers like here. When I moved here 11 years ago, I was absolutely shocked. I couldn't sit one single day in my backyard and enjoy the peace and quiet and hear the birds. Because every single day, a neighbor is using a company that uses some sort of blower or grass mower with a lot of noise and pollution. And we very often have the pollution of our neighbors blowing into our garden. So I sit there with my cup of coffee and breathe in all these fumes. So over the years, in the last 5 years, we worked with our maintenance company, and they have now invested in robots that walk around the garden every day and mow the grass. And they also invested in electric leaf blowers, and we asked them only to use them on the hard surface. So we have actually excluded all of those pollutants from our backyard, but we still get them from all the neighbors. And it's just so sad to see that we keep doing this, and it's actually possible to do it in a different way, because that's where I come from. And I understand that people who have grown up here are used to it. It's a big change because we're used to having perfect lawns and perfect gardens. It's actually better for the lawn if the grass clippings go down into the grass and stay there, and it actually nourishes the soil. So using the gas leaf or the blowers on the grass is actually not good for the grass. So I'm very much strongly support of the gas blower ordinance.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Victor Alvarez. I live at 204 Park Street here in New Canaan, and I fully support a ban on gas-powered leaf blowers. The reason is, first, is empathy for the workers. So there are probably thousands of workers that have been cutting our lawns for decades. And especially during fall cleanup and spring cleanup, sometimes they're out there for 7, 8, 9 hours a day and holding a leaf blower, blowing the leaves. And I've seen some of those guys without ear protection. So if they're not wearing ear protection, they're definitely compromising their hearing. They're also breathing in the emissions. So I think just that alone is a strong enough reason to ban leaf blowing, or gas-powered leaf blowing. But if you add to that the technology has changed, so we now have, albeit a little more expensive, but they're electric devices that use batteries. And it's a lot more humane to have the workers using that electric equipment than the gas equipment. And the sooner we transition to that, the better it will be for the workers. And the third thing is the cost. So I, for one, do not mind paying a little bit more for my landscaping if the landscaping company is going to transition to electric equipment. And the last thing is, I believe it acts as a disincentive for people to remain outdoors. So when you're outdoors and you're enjoying your coffee and you're out on your terrace or your patio, or even if you're walking down the sidewalk and the leaf blowers show up or the landscaping company shows up, most people just pack up what they put out and they just go right back inside and hide inside until the landscapers go away. So it's obviously more healthy to remain outdoors. And so in that way, it's kind of unhealthy to keep the internal combustion engine equipment in place. So I urge you to please ban the gas-powered leaf blowers to the fullest extent that you can. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Morrow, and thank you to the Town Council. I've spoken to you before. We've gone over these issues many times, so I won't go over the issues again. I mean, the health threat from gas-powered leaf blowers is scientifically proven, has been documented and demonstrated many times in terms of the toxic fumes, the impact of the noise, the impact that this has on children, especially, on older people especially, but really on everyone. And also, as Victor just said, on the workers who use them, who are really in many ways the primary victims of this gas-powered equipment. I just wanted to point out a couple things. One, it was in Lowe's and Home Depot recently. It is very hard actually to buy a gas-powered leaf blower in these stores anymore. Almost all of their stock is electric. These are not woke institutions. They're not doing this to be politically correct. They're doing this because electric equipment makes sense, it works, it's competitive to gas, and it's more economical to use over the long term. So no one needs a gas blower, especially during the summer when there isn't heavy work to do. There are sound, economically sensible alternatives, which are readily available and out there now. And most of our neighboring communities have already recognized that with the ordinances that they passed. The second point is I do want to encourage you to reinstate the language about the restriction on the use of residential use of leaf blowers and limit that to hard surfaces and man-made surfaces only. That was in the original draft that was presented to bylaws and ordinances during the winter. It disappeared from the draft at the meeting 6 weeks ago, but it disappeared without a vote. And that change does materially affect the impact and value of the ordinance in terms of the amount of noise, the amount of gas leaf blower use that we will experience as a community. So for the sake of good order and also for the sake of the impact and value of this ordinance, I do urge you to reinstate that language so that residential use of gas-powered leaf blowers is limited to hard and or man-made surfaces only. Finally, I also would recommend that the definition in the ordinance should cover all leaf blowers, regardless of whether they're hand-carried backpack, wheeled, or pull-along, so that there are no loopholes here, again, to protect our community and to protect the health of our residents. So thank you very much, and I do appreciate your support.
Thank you.
After that is Avinash.
Good evening, and thank you also for the opportunity. My name is Peter Wyman, and I live at 963 Ponus Ridge Road. I wholeheartedly support everything that was said by everybody who's been at this table and double down on that. I feel very, very strongly to reinstate the language that limits gas-powered leaf blowers to the hardscapes, and agree with the last gentleman about no loopholes and being really sure that it's backpacks, wheels, whatever, because it's the same thing. It's the environmental issues, the health issues, the noise issues, everything that everybody, and thank you, colleagues, folks behind me that have spoken, because you've done a great job outlining how serious this is. There is absolutely no reason that I can think of anyway, that you would stand up and say, absolutely, we need to continue with gas-powered leaf blowers. I've probably had 5 or 6 people, good friends, over the last several months who've been to the Home Depots and the Lowe's, again, as other people have said here, that it's amazing. It's 80% electric. It's going away. And we need to be not followers, but leaders here. So I've made the main points here. There
Thank you.
is very, very good reason. And I hope, I'm a little disappointed that there haven't been more people. Hopefully there are a lot of people online, but that this room wasn't more full, because I know, at least in the folks that I've talked to, I don't have anybody that I know that's standing up and saying, hey, Pete, you're wrong. I think we should just, hang in with the gas-powered mowers. This is not a popular thing. You know this, so I urge you to take action and support the reinstatement of the restriction on hardscapes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And Leslie?
You Patriots fan.
Avinash, hi. Avinash Phillips, 268 Briscoe. I'd like to point out that everything that is said on pollution, I absolutely agree. But blowers are not the only thing. It's also the mowers out there. What are the restrictions that you're going to put on the mowers? Because there should be something there as well. You're solving half the problem for 3 months of the year or 4 months of the year. But for the rest of the period of time, nothing is happening. So that's an important thing. Noise pollution, same thing. The mowers as well. And, lest we forget, the 4th of July, it's one of the biggest periods of both air and noise pollution. Yet we keep doing that all along. So there is a certain amount of hypocrisy in this whole thing that we should also take into account and recognize. Some towns have gone to alternates, robotic displays for fireworks and stuff like that, and have basically gone, drone displays, that's the word, and have basically done away with fireworks. Do we need all that sound? There's lots of studies done on the impact to birds and wildlife that happens during the 4th of July. So while we are doing this, we should also look at the bigger picture and try to cover more areas. That's the first thing. Second is the cost. I have a backpack blower that I have for 15 years, a gas blower. Bought it for $450. The same one is available for $550 today. The equivalent electric blower requires 2 batteries and costs almost $1,500. On a good day, you can find it for about $1,300. So the cost difference is 2.5-fold. That should be something that is also considered. And perhaps, the town could offer a buyback or something for the old blowers. It doesn't have to be a spectacular amount, $100, maybe $200. I doubt, more than 1,000 households have anything of that sort. It would cost maybe $100,000 to $200,000 to the town, but it creates more of an incentive to get those old blowers out of the way and have the town move towards electric.
About another 45 seconds. If
Sure.
you would just,
I'm also looking that you have exceptions for to the ban for DIYers like me. Most of the times, Saturday is the only time we get to do stuff. So Saturday exceptions, or for a limited period of time over a weekend, because we can't get all this done while we are busy over the weekdays. So exceptions for that. And I have a low slope roof. It's almost flat. You can walk on it. You can ride a bicycle on it. The slope is very minimal. So, and it's a hard surface. It's a metal roof. It requires frequent blowing. So again, being a hard surface, I'm hoping that exception is put in for that kind of stuff.
thank you. Sorry to cut you off. We got to move
No,
it. Thank you.
I'm done.
Thank you for your comments.
Hi, I'm Leslie Kammer, 778 Silver Mine Road. Thank you for this opportunity to speak. I'm just going to read what I wrote to keep myself on point. By this point, you've received many emails and heard many comments, including many with links to information from medical and science-based sources detailing the harms of gas-powered leaf blowers to human and environmental health. You have the necessary information to make a sensible decision to safeguard the health of New Canaan residents. I urge you to pass the ordinance, including the original language limiting individual homeowners' summer use of gas-powered leaf blowers to hard surfaces only, and for a limited period of time. Blowing grass clippings off of lawns, as has already been said tonight, is detrimental to soil health, and healthy soil supports healthy lawns. Additionally, in Section 2, definitions, a gas-powered leaf blower should not be limited to backpack or handheld blowers, but should pertain to all gas-powered leaf blowers, including wheeled. That would be an illogical and counterproductive exclusion. Lastly, Section 3A limits the hours to Monday through Friday, 10 to 4, and Saturday and Sunday, 12 to 4. I believe I have that right. Please do not extend these hours. This is already a toes in the water ordinance. In my opinion, it could be so much stronger. Please do not dilute it further. This is not a hardship. There are easy options. Landscapers will adapt to the new requirements, and they will be healthier and more profitable with the adoption of smarter practices. I trust you have all taken the issue seriously enough to have read through the links you've received and do the research that would guide the right outcome, which is to prioritize the health of your constituents. Concerned citizens enacted the first gas leaf blower bans almost 50 years ago. New Canaan is years behind in prioritizing residents' health in regard to this issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, do we have any online?
Anyone online who would like to speak can raise their hand right now. I've got two waiting.
So let's go to Jane.
So Jane Horowitz will be first.
Hi,
Thanks.
I can't turn my video on, but I can just speak if that's okay.
That's fine. Yeah, go right ahead.
It's just saying blocked by you guys. Okay, good evening. My name is Jane Horowitz. I live at 14 Adams Lane. I prepared a written statement, so we'll just read it. My family has lived here for 2 years. We are a military family with 2 young children, and I work as an internal medicine provider. My husband is in the Air Force and was an F-16 pilot for 21 years. Before moving to Connecticut, we lived near Joint Base Andrews outside Washington, D.C., which is one of the busiest Air Force bases in the country. So I have much experience living near loud things. You may be wondering why this is relevant. I share this background to provide perspective on the issue before you. The F-16 is a supersonic fighter jet. It is an extraordinarily loud aircraft. It produces noise levels approaching 140 decibels during takeoff and when in use. By comparison, gas-powered leaf blowers generally operate in the 90 to 100 decibel range, which is still shockingly loud. We moved to the suburbs for many reasons, including the hope of enjoying the peace and quiet that backyard life is meant to offer. Instead, we have found that summer afternoons and evenings in our neighborhood are dominated by the incessant sound of gas leaf blowers, to the point that quite literally spending time outdoors in the summer here in New Canaan has become less peaceful than living near an active military airfield with fighter jets overhead. I use this also to emphasize 2 points. One, that people can tolerate loud noise when it's intermittent and brief. An F-16 is roughly 10,000 times louder than a gas-powered leaf blower, and I listened to dozens take off and fly daily for years and years. But prolonged, seemingly endless, low-frequency noise is a mental health and quality of life issue. And 2, fighter jet training serves a national defense mission, yet military bases still make efforts to minimize disruption to surrounding communities through flight planning and scheduling operations to reasonable hours whenever possible. If our military recognizes the importance of balancing operational necessity with respect for neighboring residents, I believe our community can do the same when it comes to lawn equipment. Even though our house is on 2.5 acres, last summer, leaf blower noise went Monday through Friday until 6 or 7 p.m. most nights. It no longer became feasible to eat dinner on our porch or patio as we could not hear our small children speak. It was not enjoyable to swim or read at the pool. This is not simply an inconvenience. Families should be able to enjoy their yards. Children should be able to play outside, and residents should be able to open their windows or sit outside without persistent intrusion of engine noise. I'd also like to make a point given my medical background. I formerly worked as a hospitalist at Mount Sinai in New York City. Mount Sinai has a Children's Environmental Health Center, which released a data-backed document last month titled Gas-Powered Leaf Blowers and Health. I emailed it to the committee, and I hope you will review it in detail, but I'll highlight the conclusion of these clinicians. Quote, children's vulnerability to GLBs. As pediatric environmental health researchers and clinicians, we are particularly concerned about the impacts of pollution produced by GLBs on children's health. Children's rapidly developing lungs, ears, eyes, brains, and other organ systems are inherently more sensitive to environmental hazards than adults. Children breathe more air per pound of body weight per day than adults, and thus inhale more pollutants that are emitted by this equipment. Fine particulates produced by high-powered GLBs penetrate deep into the lungs and exacerbate asthma and can enter the bloodstream to affect a wide range of bodily systems. We are a town of children and families. You are our policymakers, and we need a policy-level action today, conveniently Earth Day. I respectfully ask the council to consider the cumulative impact this issue has on residents' health and well-being, and to support meaningful restrictions that preserve the character and livability of our community, like we have seen succeed in neighboring communities. Thank you.
Thank you.
Irene Hendricks.
Hello. Irene Hendricks, 133 Springwater Lane. This is my 4th time speaking on this topic in a public hearing. And I am grateful for the perseverance of everybody who's helped move this forward, and very, very much looking forward to the beginning of our journey of common sense regulation for the betterment of the health of our community. I don't want to recap necessarily all the points that others have made, but I do think there are a couple things that are critical to talk about, both in terms of the transparency of our governance within this community, as well as the expectations of the folks who are very, very concerned with the issue of gas-powered leaf blowers. First and foremost, covering all gas-powered leaf blowers, regardless of form factor, right? So wheeled, backpack, head-mounted, pick your favorite thing. There's probably one that I haven't thought of, but they emit the same pollution. We've heard quite a bit about the scientific and environmental concerns of that. And so how the gas-powered leaf blower goes about its business is less important than the fact that it is extraordinarily polluting and harmful. Second, I think the hard service ban being removed is concerning. I don't think it's necessary in the summer, and I don't think we've clearly made this point that, you know, this is a seasonal ban. This is not a 12-month ban at this point in time. And so whether we are blowing, a walkway, a driveway, whatever, it's quite rare that there are leaves or other things that are falling in such a quantity that they need to be blown by a gas-powered leaf blower during this brief summer season. One point that has not been covered that I think is critical to cover is enforcement. This has briefly been touched on in prior sessions, not in this one. And I sincerely hope that it is the intention of this community and the police who are sworn to uphold the laws of our community to enforce any regulation that is enacted. A toothless ordinance is meaningless and defeats the purpose of the many, many good efforts that have been put in place to get us this far. I would like to applaud some of the comments made in terms of things that can happen in the future. Should we think about lawnmowers? Should we think about fireworks? Certainly, I think those are all important things. The journey thus far on this particular rather boundary topics of gas-powered leaf blowers has at times felt a little bit like Sisyphus rolling the boulder up the hill. I hope we will go there. I hope we will consider continually being a leader as the town of New Canaan and thinking about what is best for all citizens of this community. And so I view this ordinance as drafted as a starting point, and I look forward to progressing our leadership on environmental and health matters in the future. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Is there anyone else online that would like to speak?
No. All right. Let's move on to thank you everyone for your comments, and also just as a quick kind of coda, we do receive emails on this issue, and all of them are read. I just want everyone to realize that it's tough for us to respond to every email that come in on every issue, but we do read and appreciate everyone's voice on this issue, whatever their side is on this issue. So thank you. Okay, that concludes agenda item number 4. We'll move now to new agenda item number 5, which is projects, appropriations, and bond authorizations. Review and approval of the following projects, appropriations, and bond authorizations. It says see Exhibit C, and then our agenda that I'm looking at, which is also posted up on the town's website, catalogs the various resolution authorizations. We have Ann Kelly, I believe.
Yes,
Perfect.
I'm online. So at this point, this is the 5-year capital plan that we just approved 2 weeks ago, and it's the resolutions related to the 2027 projects that were approved, that we're looking for authorization on those bonding authorizations, approval on those bonding authorizations.
Okay. So why don't we do it the way we will make a motion and then open it for discussion and then take the vote, okay? So I'll make the motion for, can we, Tucker, can we just do this all like one motion and we just do it as one motion?
You can do it as one motion as stated in the agenda, if you agree with everything in the agenda.
Right. So I'll make a motion for the approval of the following projects, appropriations, and bond authorizations as set forth in the agenda item, which is now agenda item number 5. And it has from A through N, the resolution authorizing appropriations. So with that said, I'll make that motion. Can someone second it, please? Hillary seconds. Okay, we'll now open it up for discussion. Are there any discussions on any of the items from A to M? Okay.
Yes.
Penny has a comment.
I do. I have a comment about, where is it? Oh, J, which is the $1 million for the library grant. First off, I want everybody to understand I am not opposed to the library. I have a question about the process that was followed getting the funding to us. Initially, it was discussed at the Board of Finance that it was going to be 500 one year and 500 the next year. And then all of a sudden it appeared as 1 million all at once. And I understand that in the one of the grant applications that the library is going for indicates that they need to have assurance that the town is going to back the extent to which the grant can be granted, should it be granted. The project was never presented to us with any specifics. And all of the funding that we approve every year has very specific dynamics to those projects. What are the monies going to be used for? It's never one of these, well, we're going to go for a grant for, renovation of what is existing shell of the 1913 building. So we have no idea what those monies are going for, whether or not they are activities that we eventually are going to approve of and then be supporting operating costs for. So I have a little bit of a problem approving monies that have not had any details behind it.
Jennifer.
Okay, I want to respond to a number of different aspects of what my esteemed colleague has said. So first of all, I would have to go back and see if there was like a timestamp for where you saw that, because I was taking copious notes and I remember hearing Todd Lavieri easily accept the 1 million and state it and have it come out. I don't recall hearing him. I don't recall that. So I have to find where that is. But separately, I also do recall Ellen giving us a loose idea of what the building would be used for. There's a certain amount of square footage. There's ADA compliance with the bathrooms and whatnot, a meeting room for people and organizations to be able to stay after hours because they can't stay in the library past a certain point. So yes, it was kind of loose, but there was an idea for it. I also think there's precedence for what she is doing. In the short time I've been on town council, I have seen 2 cycles go by with loose and changing plans for what was going on at the Powerhouse Theater, but we have placeholders for $875,000 for a project that has gotten bigger. To be honest, in my first year, there was money set aside for Capo, and then that budget expanded with contributions that were going to come in. There's precedent for it, and I am surprised if there were concerns about this, why they didn't come up during Ellen's presentation, or at least during our final budget vote. And I'm upset that it would be coming up at this late date.
Jen, you did a great job summing it up. I concur with everything you're saying. As new person on the board, I was getting my head around to all the stuff in the budget. That $1 million was always in there. And it was plain to see. Ellen came here and talked about it to us. Ellen then invited Lena, myself, and Heather to a meeting at the library where she walked us through everything they were going to do with the legacy building, which included, as Jennifer stated, all boom, 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 and meeting spaces. So I don't understand the conversation about, well, we didn't know it was going to be $1 million, or that we don't know what this is going to be used for. It was always very clear to me, and I'm new.
Thank you, Mike. Kim?
Yeah, I did mention the idea of splitting up the appropriation, 500 one year, 500 another. So that is something that the town council did talk about, but I just want to make everyone aware of this. And you might already know this, but in the charter, I've been studying the charter a lot because the Charter Review Commission. So even though we vote on something in, the capital plan, when you come to bond issues, the charter says the town council may approve, disapprove, or reduce the amount of such proposed bond issue, but may not increase the same nor change the terms thereof. So overall, I just want to.
Can you provide a charter?
Sure.
Provision?
C513 bond issues. So I just want to make everyone aware, because I have some other things that I wanted to bring up, but we do have the ability to make changes to the bond issues, even though we voted on a budget. So I just want to make that clear. In terms of the library, if they need $1 million, I just thought it would be a good idea to put 500 out one year and then 500 out another year. And there's many different grants they can apply for. It's not just, one specific grant. There's state grants, preservation grants, and all those kinds of things. So I'm not against the overall ask. It's just, why would we have to bond it $1 million when we haven't gotten any kind of collateral on what the bond, what the grant, excuse me, when I say collateral, what I mean is what the grant is and, estimates and more detailed plans. So I'm half in. I could be persuaded, but that's just my thought, because we have bonded, and I'm going to talk about this in a minute. $150 million is bonded for the town right now. We pay $31 million in interest on that bond. So every time we bond something, we're paying interest. So it's not just about whether the project is good or not. It's, can we save the taxpayer money by not paying bond interest if it's absolutely not necessary?
Mike, can I just correct? It's actually 119 million in bonding, and the balance to the 150 is interest. So it's not that much in that.
Can I just correct that? I meant 150 million total, 119 million bonded, 31 million interest. That adds up to 150 million. So thank you for the correction. That's what I meant.
Hillary.
I find this shocking and really offensive. We voted on the budget last week, and you are now coming back and telling people who've had no notice, including us, that you are going to argue against what we approved last week. And I find that distasteful. The library had no idea that this would be coming now. You are now broadcasting to every town department and everybody that comes to us for budget that we'll approve it. And then when you're not here, we're going to snatch it away from you in a bond issue. And I find that disgusting. And I'm embarrassed for us that this is happening right now. I think if you had a leg to stand on and you really thought about this, you would have brought it up during budget. And I find this to be ridiculous.
Okay. Penny, do you have something to say? Janet?
How much are we saving by taking this out in taxpayer money? I mean, seriously, it's
take it out.
Hold on.
It's a placeholder.
Guys, one at a time. Janet, is that your comment?
No, I
Question?
think it's performative.
Okay, listen, guys, look, I can scrap with the best of them. I get it's an issue that invokes a lot of passion, and I get it. I just please try to avoid ad hominems, just to hit the issue. I get
But
it.
Mike, it's important because here we have people chirping constantly about transparency and this is what the people want. And people are telling us, and this is da-da-da. And then you come in and we're totally sandbagged here with this argument. I've never, ever in my life heard this before in following town government, certainly not while I'm sitting here. And I find it just really offensive. You've been able to contribute an email about the leaf blower ordinance. Everybody sent other stuff, and this could not come up. I find that to be very nefarious. And I have to express my anger about it because I think it just puts to lie our whole budget process. Like, why bother? Why bother?
Understood. Penny. And then,
I think I prefaced my comments that it was a questioning of the policy and procedure. I'm not saying I'm not going to approve it. I said that I questioned the procedure and the approval of it when it was initially discussed at 500 and 500 and then comes in at $1 million. So I'm questioning procedure. That's all.
Okay. Fair
Can
enough.
I add some
Please.
color? I think I can help with some of the process that might actually help with the conversation. So yes, the $1 million, there was a discussion, and I think even at the Board of Finance level on the 500 and 500 before it came to you. And because of the need to go for grants, a lot of these grants need the town's commitment to fund up to the $1 million. In our finance department, and we're going out to bond next week, we bond in arrears. So there's no bonding. The actual money does not get expended until we reimburse ourselves for costs. So, if we don't need to go out to bond for the full $1 million in year 1, 2, or 3, like let's say we only need to go out for 500 we would only bond 500. But it gives the library the piece of paper that says the town has committed to $1 million, but we would never bond more than, if they only needed 500 in year one, we'd only bond that after it's already been expended, because we use our general fund to expend, and then we reimburse ourselves after the monies have been expended. And it has to go through once we have that money, it'll still have to be approved by, it goes through the Board of Selectmen again for all expenditures.
And just to clarify, because I want to drive home the point about just like the precedent of how we do things on other things that no one has raised their hand for before. But what you just described, isn't that correct? That's exactly what has happened with the Powerhouse Theater. Like 2 years ago, there was a line in, I think, for 175. I don't know. Has it been bonded yet?
No, because there's no money. We've
Exactly.
spent, I think, a few hundred that, actually they spent their money, but we've committed $875,000 additional. We've spent the difference between 875 and $1.5 million. So they've drawn down some funds from the town, but they have 875 left. But until they, come up with a plan and they start spending money, and that plan has been approved by the town, no money has been expended.
So just to reiterate, we're not accruing debt on
No.
that. It's just a placeholder. It's a line item.
Is it like a line of credit?
No, it's really just a commitment. And so that money it gives us legal authority to go out and bond, because when we go out, like next week, when we go out to bond, it's in the bond offering documents, what has been approved by this town to bond. So, and Anne can jump in if she wants, but it's really, we have to have the governing body's approval to bond for anything. And so if we don't have those approvals, we cannot bond for it.
All right. Any other-
Correct.
I mean,
Kim, yeah.
I understand what everyone's saying, but it's still committing $1 million, whether it's they use it or not. So, since we haven't seen detailed plans of what's going on, I don't understand why we can't commit to half and then after a year commit to another half, because the project isn't going to start probably before we go to the budget season again. So that's the part that I'm just stuck on, is why go to $1 million when we don't even need it until, so we can take a look at the plans and whatever. But
It's to go for grant funding.
Right.
That's why.
By not approving it, you may prevent Ellen from receiving the grant, in which case, and she did answer these questions because I remember asking them during the budget session, the building could sit fallow if she doesn't get the grant money that she needs. And we, the town, it was an unfunded mandate to say that you had to move it and they want to do something good with it. And she did give, maybe not the most detailed, but an idea of what it's going to be. And so it isn't going to cost us more to have a placeholder for 1 million versus 2 years of 500 as placeholders. But it could prevent us from getting a good grant towards the project.
Kim, Hillary, and anyone else on the side?
I'm not against fixing up the building at all. But the thing is what if next year they only need 300? So why don't we just do a bond for 300? So my point.
Well, that's similar to.
I'm trying. I know you guys are really passionate about this, and I'm sorry that you're offended, but unfortunately, this is what the charter says. You're allowed to look at bonds, even though we voted on something. It's not a personal thing. This is not an attack on anyone or the library. This is just, in my mind, this is what we are elected to do, which is to look at all the monies that are spent by the town, and bonding costs money. So this is nothing against the library or against anyone's passions and whatever.
But we did it, just explain that it's not going to cost money.
Jennifer, hold on, please. Hillary's next.
I just
and
want,
Jennifer,
I
we
want
gotta shut this down.
Yep. And I want everyone to remember this the next time you run for something and you use the word transparency, because this is a sandbag. And so why don't we go through the other things in the agenda that you wanted to argue against?
Yeah,
Because there's multiple bond issues that we've now already voted on in the budget. You have additional ones besides the library. This is just, again, these bodies that could be affected by this have no notice of this.
I just want to
So,
say that
no,
this isn't.
No, who's next? Penny's next.
Hold on. Just let's
You've
wrap
gotta-
up this
you're
discussion
good.
on the library, okay? It's been clarified here, the first selectman, and everyone has their position. Penny, and then we got to move this along too,
Yep,
if there's
yep,
something
yep.
else.
You're totally missing my point. I am not against the funding. I am questioning the process that got us here, that we did not have complete information on the project as we do all these others. And so I just was trying from a policy standpoint to say, if we're going to bring requests for funding to us, we know what we're funding.
Penny, could you please publish the letter that you sent to the Board of Finance about this issue? I think that's important that the public knows that as a member of, you represented yourself as a member of town council and sent them a letter that was very detailed about this particular issue and about funding for the $1 million. And I think that that should be public. And since you represented yourself not as a citizen, not as a resident, but as a member of town council, which could be interpreted as speaking for us,
no,
that should be put on the record. We have a rule. We do not put our title on things. So let's just be transparent here, guys.
Kim, this is it.
Yes.
Guys, we got to get moving on here.
Right.
Okay,
She's
come on.
got more.
I'm gonna,
Well, hold
I'm
on.
gonna question policy when I think it needs to be
All right,
questioned.
okay.
Great.
Yeah,
Not the
I
time.
mean, part of public meetings, it's not about being sandbagged, okay? There's two parties here and there's two caucuses. And the Republican caucus met and, you know, the Democratic caucus meets. And this isn't about sandbagging. This is about public process. So to tell people beforehand, oh, we looked at this a little bit more and we looked at the agenda and we came up to something different has nothing to do with sandbagging. That's part of
You're
being-
sandbagging the library.
Hold on.
That's-
You are sandbagging every town department that gets a capital, that requests capital. That is what you are doing.
Okay, I am speaking order, please. I don't agree with you and I understand, I actually don't understand because this is part of being in a public meeting. If everything's done behind closed doors, there's no sandbagging.
You just said this was done behind
Hillary.
closed doors with your caucus.
Hillary, let's just, Kim, get to your final
Get to
point.
your-
I have to
My
move this
final
on.
point is I take offense to being pointed at, to being accused of things and talking about sandbagging. That is not the intent here at all. Okay?
Then keep going.
All right,
What else?
I'm shutting this conversation down after Jennifer's comment. and that's it.
So I'm literally taking all the passion out of this and it's not Republican, Democrat. I literally, just to answer your question about process, Penny. So I take the example of the town players and it just like wearing another hat. I happen to be part of like the grant review process for the New Canaan Community Foundation. So it plays into this conversation because looking for grants to come in, we as a body approved that. There was no discussion. There was no hand wringing. They do not have a clear plan for it. It is forever changing and nobody seemed to care about it. So what I care about, and it is not personal and it is not political, is consistency. And this is not costing us any money. End of my point.
Okay.
Yes.
That's it for the library. Is there any other just topic on the bond resolutions? We got to move this to a vote. Yes, Kim, go ahead.
Okay, so this is a general comment and it does have specific implications. So in terms of bonding, when I looked at the bonding policy of the town, it is for things that are usually considered capital projects that last like 20 years. So when I looked at all of the items and I did get an itemized list on what was going to be bonded, my general concern is about things that are not lasting for 20 years. And when I looked at, all of the lists, there was a bunch of vehicles, maintenance vehicle replacement. There was 3 other vehicles and it all amounts to about $500,000. So my general comment is that I think it doesn't make sense to bond things that only last 6 to 8 years. And that, is there a way to put that in the operational budget? If not now and in the future. And, I'm considering voting against those items.
So can I speak to that? Because that's actually very important. So, and Ann's on as well. So I think between the two of us. So if it is a 10-year life, a vehicle, because we have a $50,000 limit, that item is only bonded for 10 years. Like we match the asset life to the bond life. That is accounting 101, and it's amortized over 10 years. What you're getting is an average, and I'm going to let Anne speak more clearly because this is her wheelhouse. I have a higher level overview.
Dion is correct. What we do is we go through bond counsel, who goes through the tax life on all our projects. And we have projects that are 5, 10, 15, and 20 years in this bonding coming up. And we're different than most other towns who do level debt over that. If we do 10 million, they do 10 million over 20 years. We don't do that. We do the asset life of the project or the asset like a vehicle. So you'll notice in the repayment list, the repayment schedule that we're looking at from a principal standpoint, our principal is higher in the earlier years because we have 5, 10, and 15-year projects in there. And then we have the 20. So we do not amortize everything over a strict 20-year life.
And to explain why that's a very prudent way to bond is that if you have someone living here for 3 years, are we going to charge that person for the full cost of a new police vehicle for the 3 years they're here? Or should the people that live here for the full life of that asset be charged a percentage of the life of that asset? And that is like finance 101, accounting 101. I mean, it's very prudent way to manage our finances. And it's better for the taxpayer. If you wanted to put all that into current tax, everybody's taxes, you would have taxes going up and down when there are, needs for multiple cars or, this kind of keeps a level payment structure for our taxpayers. It's better for our community. It's better for our taxpayers.
Okay, Kim, you have any follow-up there?
I mean, I appreciate what you're saying. I don't agree that, paying that much in interest is good for the taxpayer. Any budget, accounting 101 is if you can pay things without having to take on debt is the best way to go.
Untrue. It's not true.
And that's my point of view. And we do have one of the highest debt per capita in the state of Connecticut. So my goal is to keep taxes down or to keep bonding down and to not bond things that only have a half-life or have a life of 6 to 8 years. So when I looked at the bond policy in the budget book, it talks about 20-year bonds. It doesn't talk about anything about 5, 10, 15 years. It doesn't talk about bonding vehicles, which we've heard have a 6 to 8 year life. So perhaps that should be changed in the policy of the town in the budget book. When I asked this question, there was one paragraph, and I'd be happy to read it, but I don't want to bore people and take up more time in this meeting, but it does not talk about what you're talking about. So if your philosophy or if the town's philosophy is to bond 5, 10, 15 years, then we all need to know that because that is not what is written in the policy.
So I think it's important for everybody in this board to know, we just went out and got our Moody's rating last week. We were reaffirmed as a AAA credit. So that means we're not over levered. And, people can say whatever they want, but Moody's is our rating agency. And we were reaffirmed just last week with a AAA rating. So I would urge you to read their report on why they, retained our bond rating the way it is. And I can tell you that a community, I don't want to call out a specific community, but it's a community in Fairfield County that has not taken this approach to sort of bonding projects over the useful life. And they are in very bad straits this year with their budget. So I think you need to do a little research on, best ways to structure financial instruments.
Thank you.
Out of
Janet?
principle, is it town council's jurisdiction to decide on how we amortize our assets? Is that our purview? I don't get why this is a conversation.
Okay, it's because, can I say something?
Yeah.
It's because of the charter, C513, and it talks about bond issues. The Board of Finance recommends bonds, and then quote, it says the town council may approve, disapprove, or reduce the amount of such proposed bond issue. You can read it in the charter. So this is what has been on, this is our job basically. But beyond that, I'd like to go to one more thing and then I can propose what I'm not going to vote on or what I'm not going to approve. But last thing is the Affordable Housing Committee 225. I wanted to know a little bit more about that, about what that's for.
The 225, well, Hillary's on that committee. It is for, they have retained Amenta Emma to create some schematics, I guess I'm not an architect, so.
Not either, but I
So,
think that's.
I'm a finance person, that I do know. But they're creating like more, so right now they've created general schematics. They are having a public hearing May 19th to present those general schematics on 3 different options, well, really probably more like 6 different options to.
More than that, but three to 4 different sites, 2 options generally for each site.
Okay, so that has been paid for already. Once they've had that public hearing and met with the community to discuss those options, they will be given, they're going to take any kind of feedback from the community and make a decision of what to have Amenta Emma go back and do more, engineering. And for anybody, I now watch a lot of building projects. It's super expensive to do the drawings and the, more detailed work. So that $225,000 is to do that second phase of work.
And that's on 3 parking lots. Is that correct?
Well, it'll end up being on 1, I believe. They're not going to do 3 different sets of drawings. This is once they narrow in on one.
Schematics are for parking lots.
That was done in last year's budget. So the money to create those schematics was in last year's budget. That has gotten them to the point where they can come to a public meeting that they'll be hosting at Lapham Community Center on May 19th. And they'll have the community input on what Amenta Emma has put together. Once they get that feedback, they will go back as committee members, get more detailed drawings and specs done up by Amenta Emma to present to the various boards of a recommendation for how this community should move forward on getting affordable housing Hugh points. Because, as you know, we have enough credits to get us to 2020. Our first moratorium ends in 2028. We have enough credits to get us to 2032. But after that, we're going to need additional affordable housing units to sort of get us to this moratorium strategy.
Okay, thank you. My only concern, and I'm bringing up parking lots, is because I don't think the parking commission has been given approval for these 3 sites to be built on.
We aren't there yet.
It's very early, Kim. This is a strategy. Everybody's going to be brought in once there's a recommendation to put forward. But right now it's just, this was formed by the town council. This committee was formed by the town council with a mandate to create a strategy for getting Hugh points to keep us in moratorium from 830G. That is what this body formed.
Yes, I was on that committee and I helped form it, and I agree with the mission. I'm just concerned that there's 3 parking lots that schematics are being drawn on, and the parking commission has not approved any building or has not put forth that recommendation to use the parking lots for affordable housing. So that's one of the reasons that I'm, concerned. And so.
Kim, they're town-owned properties. We have identified so that we don't have to incur land acquisition costs.
Mm-hmm.
We've looked only at town-owned properties. We have been very specific with Amenta Emma in these general schematics, which are very general so far, to not only to replace every single parking space that currently exists in each of those lots, and then add at least 1, but preferably more parking spaces for residents. I don't need to educate all of you guys on this. Every one of our meetings is public. We've had a million of them. So I would encourage you to go back and look at the presentations that we have done, particularly my subcommittee, the planning subcommittee. We have these general schematics. Now we want to have the public input. If one of the identified sites is a no-go, we want to know that now so that we're not wasting our time in writing a report to go to the selectmen, to go through every body that might be impacted by this with recommendations. So we want to get that input. That's the stage that we're at, but we're going to need funds to go forward. It's an incredible amount of time. It's a huge endeavor to not only figure out a site plan, but then to figure out how to finance it. and it's not free. Like our labor is free. But
Yeah, I don't have any.
those services are not free. And so I would encourage you before you start questioning what we've already approved for this, to watch the meetings so that you're educated about what kind of work we're doing, which is a tremendous amount of work. So I take your point. I hear you, but a lot of these questions could be answered by watching our meetings.
Okay, and then we gotta wrap it up. Come on.
I am aware of what you're doing. I've been reading the charter a lot, and I've been reading about the parking commission, about the use of land. So I am concerned, and I would just reiterate it, and I don't doubt that you've been doing a lot of work, and I've been following the work. But now that I'm becoming more familiar with the charter of the parking commission and how
We're
they
not
have,
there.
they,
We're not there yet.
but that's why I would just question spending money on something when the parking commission hasn't been brought in to even approve the use of those 3 parking lots for affordable housing. So I'll stop there.
They would not approve it. They're a advisory body that would advise Deanna about it. It is they are all town-owned properties. So, you know, they can either be advisory or not, but that's the way the charter reads. And I know we need to wrap this up, but it's like, we can't go out and get stuff done without money, like, or without some budget to do it. So I don't know what then
I just
I'm
want to
just
follow the
baffled.
charter.
I'm just
That's all.
baffled.
I'm just interested in following the charter.
I'm
and-
interested in following our budget process.
All right. We're taking this to a vote, but what I need to understand and manage the vote is with trying to avoid having to do a read of each of these identified items. I need to know, Penny, are you going to vote no for the library? Yes or no?
Yes, it was a policy discussion solely.
Fine. Kim, are you a yes or no on library?
I'll vote yes on the library, but I would like to propose, and as I'm looking at this document, I can tell you, I mean, I've got numbers like 10, 11, 12. It doesn't match with the agenda.
So why don't we just read them all? And then we'll have to take a vote.
Okay. Good. All right. So we'll do individual motions. We'll amend. So we'll take a motion to amend the motion to do a line read for each one of these bonded items for authorization, and we will do a roll call for each one. All right. So can I get a second on that motion to amend the motion? Second. Okay. All in favor? Motion passes unanimously.
Against, actually. I want to vote on them all at once.
Oh, my God. Yes, so do I.
All right. So
We all do, but
so let's take the roll
now
call.
we have to do roll call on this one.
Yep, we have to
Yeah.
do the roll call. So, so all in favor of the motion?
All right, repeat the motion, please. Can we?
The motion is to amend the current motion to do a item by item motion approval versus a bulk motion. So can I get a second for that?
Second.
Kim, okay. All in favor?
Yeah.
Okay, so Mike, yes or no? It's up to you. We'll do what we have to do. If you are.
It's nothing. It's fine. Yes, if we have to do
Okay,
it.
so we're going to amend the motion passes. So now we'll go one by one, okay? So we'll make a motion for numbers A here, or letter A, resolution authorizing an appropriation of $50,000 for information technology 2027 project and the financing of said appropriation by the issuance of general obligation bonds of the town and notes in anticipation of such bonds in an amount not to exceed $50,000. All in favor? The motion passes. Next motion. Motion for resolution authorizing an appropriation of $192,000 for the police 2027 project and the financing of said appropriation by the issuance of general obligation bonds of the town and notes in anticipation of such bonds in an amount not to exceed $192,000. All in favor?
I'll just second.
All right, I'll make every motion. Jennifer will second every motion, okay? So all in favor of that motion? Motion passes unanimously. Next motion, resolution authorizing an appropriation of $1,615,000 for the fire equipment 2027 project and the financing of said appropriation by the issuance of general obligation bonds of the town and notes in anticipation of such bonds in an amount not to exceed $1,615,000. All in favor? Motion passes unanimously. Next, resolution authorizing an appropriation of $85,000 for the Ambulance Corps 2027 project and the financing of said appropriation by the issuance of general obligation bonds of the town and notes in anticipation of such bonds in an amount not to exceed $85,000. All in favor? We have a quorum, so. Next up, resolution authorizing an appropriation of $78,660 for the Emergency Management 2027 project and the financing of said appropriation by the issuance of general obligation bonds of the town and notes in anticipation of such bonds in an amount not to exceed $78,660. All in favor? Motion passes unanimously. Next motion, resolution authorizing an appropriation of $4,795,904 for the Department of Public Work Administration and Engineering 2027 project and financing of said appropriation by the issuance of general obligations bonds of the town and notes in anticipation of such bonds in an amount not to exceed $4,795,904. All in favor? The motion passes unanimously. Next motion, resolution authorizing an appropriation of $684,000 for the Department of Public Work Highway 2027 project and the financing of said appropriation by the issuance of general obligation bonds of the town and notes in anticipation of such bonds in an amount not to exceed $684,000. All in favor? Motion passes unanimously. Next motion, resolution authorizing an appropriation of $2,245,000 for the Department of Public Work Town Buildings 2027 project and financing of said appropriation by the issuance of general obligation bonds of the town and notes in anticipation of such bonds in an amount not to exceed $2,245,000. All in favor? Motion passes unanimously. Next motion, resolution authorizing an appropriation of $945,000 for the Department of Public Work Parks 2027 project and financing said appropriation by the issuance of general obligation bonds of the town and notes in anticipation of such bonds in an amount not to exceed $945,000. All in favor?
Can I have a discussion on, can I
Discussion.
want to take something out? I would like to take out the vehicle with accessories for 170,000. I don't know how to do that, but
Maybe a motion to amend? Motion to amend.
Okay, motion to amend, to remove vehicle with accessories for 170,000.
All right, I'll second the motion. Any discussion?
I don't think that's necessary. Yeah.
So all in favor of that motion? You're voting yes for that motion? Is your motion voting yes?
Oh, voting yes for the motion?
You're making
It's
a
your
motion to amend. Yeah,
Yes,
so
I'm
the motion's been,
seconding.
no. You made the motion to amend. I second it. There was no discussion other than that's it. We'll now move to vote on your amendment. So that's what I'm saying.
I'm
So
the
all
only
in
one
favor
who-
of the amendment? The motion fails. So now, all in favor of the motion, all in favor of the motion that I made
For
for
$945,000.
$945,000. Okay, motion passes unanimously. Next, resolution authorizing an appropriation of $1 million for the Library Grant 2027 project and the financing of said appropriation by the issuance of general obligation bonds of the town and notes in anticipation of such bonds in an amount not to exceed $1 million. All in favor? Okay. Wait, was that, everyone said yes to that? All right.
Told you I was going to.
Yeah. Next, resolution authorizing an appropriation of $80,000 for the Recreation 2027 project and the financing of said appropriation by the issuance of general obligation bonds of the town and notes in anticipation of such bonds in an amount not to exceed $80,000. All in favor? Motion passes unanimously. Resolution authorizing an appropriation of $2,905,000, 150. Whoa. Excuse me. Motion. Resolution authorizing an appropriation of $2,905,150 for the school's 2027 project and the financing of said appropriation by the issuance of general obligation bonds of the town and notes and acquisition of such bonds in an amount not to exceed $2,905,150. All in favor?
I have a
Pass.
motion to amend.
Okay, motion to amend.
Motion
what?
to amend, to remove the sped transportation vehicle replacement 1, replacement 2, replacement 3, each for $65,000, and maintenance vehicle replacement for $60,000.
Okay, I'll second the motion. Discussion? All in favor? The motion is rejected. So all in favor of my motion for $2,905,150. All in favor? The motion passes unanimously. Next, resolution authorizing an appropriation of $1,150,000 for the Sewer Capital 2027 project and the financing of said appropriation by the issuance of general obligation bonds of the town and notes in anticipation of such bonds in an amount not to exceed $1,150,000. All in favor? Motion passes unanimously. Finally, resolution authorizing an appropriation of $225,000 for the New Canaan Housing Authority Grant 2027 project and financing said appropriation by the issuance of general obligation bonds of the town and notes in anticipation of such bonds in amount not to exceed $225,000. All in favor?
I would like to say something on that too. I'd
Okay,
like to
let's-
make a motion to not approve $225,000 for affordable housing with going on record as saying that it's for 3 parking lots that are not in sync with the parking commission recommendations, because I haven't heard any recommendations. So I'm making a motion to delete that from the bond.
All right, I'll second the motion. Discussion? All in favor? Motion fails. The motion to approve my motion for the $225,000. All in favor? Okay, the motion passes unanimously. What? Yeah, that's unanimous on the final one. So we're.
No, it's not unanimous. I voted,
Okay.
I voted
Oh, you
against,
ended
I
up
made a
voting. I
motion to vote
apologize. Thank
against
you
it.
all. So let's take a roll call
Well,
on
we
that one.
voted on your motion, so do you vote on his, how do you vote on his motion?
There's a no.
I vote no on,
Okay, so
on
let's
his
take the
motion.
roll call. All right, so on my motion for the $225,000, please take the roll.
Yep. Janet Fontes, yes. Lena Lee?
Yes.
Mark Morrow?
Yes.
Maria Naughton, she's not here. Kim Norton?
No.
No. Okay. Hillary Ormond?
Yes.
Mike Rogers?
Yes.
Christina Ross, not here. Heather Russell?
Yes.
Greg Tunham, not here. Penny Young?
Yeah. Yes.
Jen Zonas?
Yeah.
Motion passes.
What about the other motions that were not unanimous then? Because,
You raised your hand.
Yeah.
thank you.
Okay, so that concludes agenda item number 5, right? Yeah, all right. So I actually have to leave. Unfortunately, something has come up that I absolutely have to handle. I'm going to turn the meeting over. You still have a quorum to continue on in voting on the next matters, and you'll have the bylaws and ordinance issue. I would note, though, in passing, just my comment on the parking commission. Well, I would vote to approve it. Honestly, it's a little bit meaningless because that statute itself or the ordinance, it's from a probably bygone generation. It needs to be ripped to its studs. I mean, it refers to employees of the parking commission. There are no employees of the parking commission. I think it's facially invalid. I think it has extreme enforcement problems that could be challenged and probably prevailed on in court. And thankfully, we have an awesome head of our bylaws and ordinance that's going to be looking at this in a few weeks. And I'll leave that for Hillary to handle. But that's my general take on things. So for me, it can be amended, but I think this ordinance needs to be ripped to its studs and reorganized and restated because I believe it's just completely facially invalid. So with that said, I appreciate it. Thank you. I wish I could stay. Yeah, exactly. All right, enjoy this. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Tucker, do we need to take public comment on, since it's a public hearing? Yep.
Okay, I'd just like to do a little wrap-up commentary, which I think will be helpful for the public. Because of FOIA, we all do not have conversations between the two parties about topics. And so we are then obligated to have those discussions in public in front of everybody. And I think that's refreshing for everybody to know that what we discussed tonight is an example of us respecting FOIA.
Thank you. Tucker, do I have to say anything in particular? Now the public hearing on proposed change to the town code as set forth in Exhibit A is now open. Do we have any public comment on this?
Let's wait on it.
Would anyone online care to comment? Okay, so can I just give a little background on this? Sure, if I need to. Whatever Robert's rules requires. So we have a bylaws and ordinances meeting on schedule for May 5th at 7 p.m. in this room, where we can address and put on the agenda this ordinance in total, to Mike's point. What this amendment is attempting to do now is something that was brought up by the Charter Review Commission, which is that the charter provides section 1. All right, so section 41-10, which is in the agenda enforcement. That first line is currently in our ordinances. The charter provides that the parking commission can hear appeals of citations issued pursuant to this ordinance, as long as that's allowed by ordinance. Now, that ordinance has never been passed by this body that gives them the jurisdiction to hear appeals of citations. And as a result, the parking commission has, since this has been brought up by the Charter Review Commission and brought to our attention, the parking commission is no longer hearing appeals right now. They've put them on hold while we hopefully can rectify the situation, give them the authority that the charter proposes to give them to hear appeals of citations. And then we can address any issues that might be existing within the off-street parking ordinance in the context of the Bylaws and Ordinances Committee. This is really just to fix a problem that we didn't know until recently existed, but is it impacting the work of the Parking Commission? That makes sense. I don't know if this screws anything up, but for section 1, I would propose that we say it shall be the duty of the employees of the parking department. Okay.
Where is she looking at? Right here. It's the agenda.
Okay, so are we gonna provide
Number 5.
notice of?
Oh, I see, just this one. Okay.
Okay, so on May 5th, we, as the Bylaws and Ordinances Committee, will consider amending what is proposed to be section 1 or subsection 1 to read, it shall be the duties of the employees of the parking department. What we need to address tonight is subsection 2, which states it shall be the duty of the parking commission to hear appeals of citations issued pursuant to these regulations. So citations that the parking department or the police department, who I don't even think issue parking tickets now. So it's really within the purview of the parking department. Citations issued in off-street parking lots, in places designated by the ordinance, which you can look at. We're just giving the the parking commission jurisdiction to hear those appeals. So I would move that we approve adopting section 41-10 subsection 2 to the town code chapter 41 parking commission as presented. Do I have a second? Jennifer Zonis seconds. Just any discussion?
Yes. Yeah, so it was published in the paper points 1 and 2, and 1 is going to be amended. So that's one of the reasons that I think we should wait for the Bylaws and Ordinances Committee meeting on May 5th to discuss this as a whole rather than take this out. In addition, 4110 ordinance applies to specific lots in town. So it wouldn't apply to anything but those lots unless the whole ordinance is changed or amended. So for that reason, I think it has to be looked at as a whole, not just picked out on one piece of hearing appeals, because the ordinance itself has very specific areas, lots that it applies to. So it's very limited.
Is that true? Interesting to hear you say that.
So can I ask a question?
Yeah.
So the counterpoint to it being, and I'm sort of asking you this to understand the issue, like if we don't vote tonight on 4110's number 2, that means from now until the Bylaws and Ordinance meeting in May, that the parking commission cannot hear appeals. So we'd be hindering some work being done if we don't do this tonight.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, and this is a request from the Parking Commission that you amend this ordinance, and we did do the proper postings, and this is a request from them back to any input that they have. They are on hold right now and they know it, but they have requested that you make this change so that they can, and they're holding off on their agenda for the next meeting because they were waiting for tonight's decision so that they can move forward.
So procedurally, we can do this.
Oh, you should do it. Yes, legal has
So there's
reviewed it.
nothing legally that we can't do it.
Correct.
Okay.
Any further discussion?
Do we have to, since it's been posted with both sections 1 and 2, do we have to vote to amend it?
No, you can't amend it. The
Yeah.
posting included, the proposal was just for item 2. It was in different color, maybe not as coming out on your agenda, but it was that you should see it on your tablet. So the only thing that was posted was the number 2.
Okay, even though 1 is on our,
It was just to give you the full context, but the proposal was for number 2,
okay, all right.
subsection 2.
Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor of adopting or of approving the proposed change to Town Code Chapter 41 as presented?
Section 2.
Section 2, yes, as presented. Okay, let's take, Janet, can we take the roll on that?
Okay. Janet Fonts, I say yes. Lena Lee.
Yes.
Mike Morrow, he's not here. Maria Naughton, not here. Kim Norton.
No.
Clary Ormond.
Yes.
Mike Rogers.
Yes.
Christina Ross, not here. Heather Russell.
Yes.
Eric Tunham, not here. Penny Young.
Here, yes.
Jennifer Zonas.
Yes.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 yeses
Okay, and 1 no.
and 1 no.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, everyone. So the next item, which everyone is is gas-powered leaf blowers, a general discussion. I first want to say that we passed this out of committee, this particular version of it, 5-2. And I agree with some of the suggestions that have been made by members of the public. Just to sort of frame this discussion, and I'm sure there's other issues that would come up. I do think that we need to expand the definition of a gas-powered leaf blower to include any gas-powered leaf blower. That was a drafting error on my part, and I will totally take the fall for that. I would strike the snow removal in the exceptions under subsection B at the top of page 2. I would add back in on the last bullet point, single leaf blower used by residents on hard surfaces, hardscapes. We can wordsmith that. And I would also ask that we consider if the incentive behind this, and I'm not trying to put this on anybody, that this would be anybody's incentive, but if we're trying to disincentivize the use of gas-powered leaf blowers and incentivize the use of electric leaf blowers, it might make sense to take out any restriction on electric leaf blowers. And then we're not debating the time frame. But what we're really doing is telling residents, like, we want you and the companies that work for you, if you happen to use a landscaping company, to convert to electric. And it doesn't make sense to then also limit that right now. I also want to say that I think that this is a first step, maybe in a longer process and a longer conversation to have with the town. I understand the frustration and how long it's taken to even get this, which does feel like a modest ordinance through. Can be frustrating to some people. This is how government works, and we've really looked at it carefully, I think, as a committee, and I know that my colleagues are going to look at it carefully now, those of whom are not on the committee. I would say in my 4.5 years of being on town council, I don't think I've received this many emails and feedback from the community as I have on this. And I think I've heard from some people, like, doesn't the New Canaan Town Council have anything better to do? And I say, this is a really important issue, first of all. And second of all, how lucky are we that this is the most controversial thing that feels like it's facing our town right now? I mean, what a great place to live, that this is what we're debating instead of, whether we have sufficient funding for our school or, any myriad of things that other towns and cities have to face. So I hope that we can approach this in the spirit of collaboration. I would love to hear everybody's feedback and any additional amendments that you might have in addition to what I sort of tried to lay out. So I'm going to first make a motion, or I guess we'll just discuss right now because I don't know. I also have comments from Eric, which I can save until the end. If anybody would like to go first. You want to go first?
I can go first. When I look at what the existing noise ordinance is, 36A-3, and the almost 2 pages that have gone into just the leaf blowers, saying we need to really think about how we are moving forward in regulating people's lives. It smacks a little bit like Big Brother to me, to go into such detail. Maybe that's why I'm a Republican, because I'm a limited government kind of gal. And so I was a little taken aback with the level of detail in the proposed ordinance, particularly since we already have an ordinance, and the ordinance does include leaf blowers. So if nothing else, why do we not then amend 36A-3 if there are some more detailed actions that need to be incorporated into the existing ordinance as opposed to creating a new one? And I think we've got to really kind of watch ourselves in over-regulating how people live their lives. If I want to blow grass clippings off of my yard, that's my choice, not government's choice. So the other so we've got to really kind of watch out for creeping regulation, as we are doing our ordinances. In addition to that, the Charter Revision Commission, since everybody's been following that so carefully, is very aware of the ordinances that exist, like planning and zoning has gone through their regulations to make sure that they are germane to today's living and in preparation for tomorrow. That's what we're doing for the charter, is in making sure it's an operationally sound document. Why don't we be doing that for all of our ordinances? And that's going to come as a recommendation from the Charter Revision Commission, that we go through starting with number 1 and make sure that all of our ordinances are germane to today and preparing for the future.
I love that you said that, because what I anticipated doing as part of our May 5th meeting is assigning blocks of the ordinances to various members of our committee to review and report back to our committee about what we can update. I've already segregated several that are just seem out of date or even maybe unconstitutional on their face, possibly.
Yeah, right.
So that is part of what I'm hoping to start on May 5th. And we should have recommendations from the Charter Review Commission to specific ordinances, but we should do a thorough,
well, I think that's right. We've been trying to do that on the town council for a number of years, as various and sundry lawyers come on and off the council. And I won't tell you which one we had started with, but it was a while ago and obviously haven't done it. But I think it's a healthy thing to do, just like it was very healthy to look at our charter.
Absolutely.
So that's why I would like not to have another ordinance put in until we understand how it fits in with the direction the review has gone.
Appreciate that. Jen.
Okay. Sorry. A number of comments, but I just wanted to start out just in one comment in response to Penny, and I've said this to others. In my experience in this whole process, I don't think this is a Republican free government versus Democrats. I think in this town, there's a lot of Republicans who are in the conservation space. So I don't think it's partisan on this particular one. I wanted just to go down. I wanted to tell you what I agree with, if that's okay, Hillary, based on what you said. Just going down, that
I'm sorry, now I've lost my, okay, so totally in agreement. Sort of my ignorance actually about like the wheel or pull along models of gas powered leaf blowers. So thank you for all the letters that came in recently and being educated on that. I have felt all along in this process, and I guess part of it is maybe a little selfish because it's based on my own like personal experience. Like maybe 10 people in town might have read that I wrote an article for the blog for Planet New Canaan when I did my own research and bought an electric leaf blower, which was really gratifying for me. But that I feel like I would lose the restriction of the electric leaf blowers because I think we want to incentivize people, and so to whatever we can do. So if you're going to have a restriction on gas powered leaf blowers for a certain number of months, if that encourages people who were completely opposed to electric leaf blowers to go to Home Depot and try one out and fall in love with them and the experience, whatever, I think to have the language in, including them in the restriction with the time restriction, disincentivizes change and growth on this issue. So I would remove the section to the use of electric leaf blowers. I do agree with you that I would be for putting back in hard surfaces or man-made surfaces, just to keep it specific. It actually helps people because it takes out like gray areas and more areas for maybe conflict when, enforcement, happens on this issue. I did want to take a look at the Section 5, Public Education and Outreach. I feel like with any, ordinance, the regular process of like the public notices, whatever those procedures are, putting it on the website and the notifications and the press and whatnot. I think Section A, community engagement, I'm not sure that I feel like a designated officer, will, meaning like they must provide outreach and educational materials. I think that the scope seems wide. It could be a cost to the town. And I do believe like there was a time in this process when we were looking at it that it would be perhaps we would engage the Conservation Commission, to create some publicity materials. Perhaps we could engage Planet New Canaan so that it's more, with excitement from certain groups, publicizing, educating for those who want to be educated. But, I don't really I wouldn't necessarily approve enforcing the town to have an officer who has to create a whole education campaign on this.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay. So I would like to respond to everyone and everyone's comments. I'd like to thank the public for being here tonight. We did receive over 250 emails, more emails than on any topic since I've been on town council, which has been over 4.5 years about. And the predominance of the emails were in favor of restrictions with all different variations. And some that wrote in called for, much greater restrictions than this ordinance is calling for at this point. So I think this is a compromise that it only is for the summer season. Some called for restrictions from May to October and then carving out other months of the year where no blowers were allowed. So the original form of the ordinance is what I think makes the most sense. So I'll start with, I'm in agreement about expanding the definition of leaf blowers, gas-powered leaf blowers to include, and I have specific language, push or walk behind leaf blowers, which are also called wheeled blowers, and ride-on/stand-on leaf blower machines. So, and then there's the backpack, and then there's the handheld. So there's 4 different kinds of leaf blowers that I would recommend would go into the definition section for both gas-powered, and I don't know if we need it for electric, but mainly gas-powered. And then, going by the same order that Hillary went through, I agree with taking out the snow removal exception. That makes sense. I am in support of adding back into the ordinance, which was in the original ordinance, single leaf blower used by residents on hard or man-made surfaces. I think hardscape might be, we'd have to define it, I think, which I don't know if you want to do that or not, but I just want to make sure that people understand what a hardscape is versus hard or man-made. To me, just makes a little bit more common sense. The last thing I want to address, it partly dovetails with Penny Young's comments about the noise ordinance, and then the suggestion by two of my colleagues to take out the restrictions on electric leaf blowers. So one of the main reasons that residents wrote in to us, and one of their biggest areas of complaint, was the noise. It was the air pollution, and the health effects was a huge part, but also the noise. So at this point, Section 3, Restriction A, number 2, talks about electric leaf blowers can be used between 10 and 4 p.m., and they can be used on Saturday and Sunday from 12 to 4. So I'd like to have some discussion on trying to address the noise issue. And I understand that electric is a bit quieter than gas, and it's obviously less polluting, but it still is going to be loud. So if there's no restrictions put on per acre, you could have a 1/4 acre lot with 5 electric blowers. This ordinance does not address that at all. I do feel like the way it's written does at least respond to the residents' concern of, the amount of time they're going to hear so much noise. But if there's a suggestion to take out electric, then I think we need another solution to the noise part, which could be would make things more complicated. But an example would be on a 1/4 acre, you can only use 1 electric leaf blower. On a 1/2 acre, you could use 2. On 4 acres, you could use 3. But I'm fine with not doing that if we are able to work out keeping the restrictions in the different hours. So let me just, for the public's, education, and just for my colleagues, the noise ordinance now allows noise from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Friday. The way the leaf blower ordinance is different. It says Monday through Friday, leaf blower electric can only be 10 to 4. So think about your life, 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. at this point, there's no leaf blowers in the summer, is the way the ordinance is written. And from 4 to 7, when you're out on your porch or having dinner or having drinks with friends or iced tea or whatever, there's no leaf blowers. If we take this out of the ordinance, you're going to have 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., 5 blowers, as many blowers as anyone wants would be able to blow, no matter what the size of your property is. The noise ordinance is currently on Saturday, 8 to 6. The way the ordinance is written now is you can only blow electric 12 to 4. On Sunday, it's 10 to 4 is the noise ordinance, but the original or the leaf blower ordinance says Sunday also 12 to 4. So I feel like we're really not responding to the public's issues with noise if we take out the entire section of restrictions on the use of electric, on the hours of electric blowing.
Thank you. I think the more complicated it is with adding certain restrictions during certain hours, that's just going to make it really tough for people to follow. And I think the simpler, the better. But I do think not doing anything is not an option, because we got, like Kim said, we got over 200 letters, and the overwhelming majority, or I think I kept count, it was over 150 letters in favor of some restriction, and about maybe 40 for no restriction at all. And of the 40, they were saying maybe we can, agree to some time limitations. So I do think we need to keep it simple. And I do think a good compromise would be to put back in no restrictions for electric. That could be a good compromise. But Kim, to your point, I don't know how much louder or how loud the electric is, but I don't know. I don't think people are, my impression that people are not as bothered by electric as they are with gas. So that could be a compromise to put no restriction.
May I ask Jen a question anecdotally, just to follow up on what she's saying? It's just a question for this point. Sorry. Yeah, is that because you guys, read the letters very, very carefully and tallied them. not to give you any more work, but did you notice within the people who were in support of restrictions, in any of them, were there comments about, but we want no restrictions on electric? Was there any like breakout for that? Or is that like a homework like that you don't want, to know?
See anyone say that they wanted restrictions for electric. I didn't see that. I didn't see one
Can we
that
go to
said
Mike
that.
next?
And I read all of them. So.
I'm a big gardener, and I have to say a couple of things first. The electrics have come a long way. They are much better. Laurel Rock went all over to electric recently, and they're really quiet. I mean, I was running out on the road the other day, and they were blowing a neighbor's place. And if I hadn't seen them on there, I wouldn't have known they were there. And you get right up to them, and they're almost whisper quiet. But the real thing is, a good law is one that everybody can follow. And if you make a law that is too hard to follow, and it's a law like leaf blowing, people are going to be very tempted to break it or not follow it and be annoyed. So making you do, and there are a lot of people that do their own lawns, and then there are tons of landscapers that start at 8 o'clock and finish up at 6 in the summer. So, if you make it so that they can't do their job, or that the guy at home or the woman at home can't, clean her deck, it's just going to be a not liked, not followed, and become unimportant. We worked many years to get here, lots of support for it. So let's make it a little easier, a little more palatable to everybody, and not have any restrictions on the electric.
I would agree with that.
So when I was reading the letters, and I did go over them very closely, there was a lot of letters in support of the ordinance as written, and there was comments about the hours of use of any leaf blower, which in this case is electric. So I do think that, noise is additive. And even though you may think the leaf blowers, the electric, are quiet, if there's no restrictions on the amount of leaf blowers on a property, the noise is cumulative, and that's not addressing the noise issue that the residents have requested. So I think that, by taking that part of the ordinance out, we're leaving, 50% of the reason for the ordinance, which is noise, on the table.
Hear you on that. I also want to reiterate what I said earlier, is that I do think that this is sort of an iterative process. And it's a bit like parking meters, where we've decided to pause. Let's see how the summer season goes on Elm Street with the parking meters, and then make a more informed decision with some more data. And I think something like this is also worth following up on. I don't necessarily think that this, I don't know, but it might not be the end all be all, and we could see how the summer goes. And if we have a lot of compliance on the gas powered leaf blowers, and we can see if people, and I would encourage people to let us know probably not after the fall, because it's just going to be, again, I think we're all going to get assaulted again, but it'd be helpful to know if there's a real qualitative difference with people using no leaf blowers at all in the summer for 3 months, or electric ones, and what the response from the community is. If the response from the community is still a racket, it's still a racket, then, we can address further. So I just wanted to say that I think that this is a process. And I think what we're really aiming for is voluntary compliance. I happen to think the best of most people in this town. And I think if we pass an ordinance, a lot of people will comply or try their best to do so. And I don't want to create these ways of trying to snake around it, which is why I think we should broaden the definition and that sort of thing of gas powered leaf blowers. Because I do think people here really want to follow ordinances that are passed. And I think to the extent that we can educate people on what it would be, I don't know, I think it might be okay. Could I just read Eric's statement real quick before I forget?
Please do. Yeah.
I don't want to, I don't want to get in trouble. Okay. This is the statement of Eric Tunham. He is the Vice Chair of Bylaws and Ordinances. Statement regarding proposed ban on gas-powered leaf blowers. And please forgive me, I tried to read this on my tablet and it wouldn't come up. I oppose the draft ordinance banning the use of gas-powered leaf blowers, quote unquote GPLB, from Memorial Day through Labor Day. I believe the ordinance as drafted is overreaching and fails to recognize the burden that may be imposed upon many residents and taxpayers who will see increased costs from the companies providing them with landscaping services. Furthermore, while I've heard from proponents of the draft ordinance that they wish to discourage the use of GPLBs in favor of electric alternatives, the draft ordinance, in fact, imposes restrictions on those very same preferred alternative machines. This simply does not make sense. The proposed quote unquote exceptions are minimally defined and leave room for interpretation. The quote unquote snow removal exception should be removed. The term quote unquote storm cleanup is vague and subject to broad interpretation. The exception proposed for the Department of Public Works should instead be for quote use by town employees on public and or town property, end quote. Institutional organizations with large non-residential acreage, including hospitals, schools, places of worship, cemeteries, and graveyards, golf courses, and other athletic fields should be exempted from any such proposed ordinance. With respect to violation of the ordinance, penalties, fines, and enforcement, I believe enforcement of the ordinance would be difficult as hiring sufficient personnel to police the ordinance may present challenges. I believe the ordinance would pit neighbor against neighbor and result in many calls to the NCPD overtaxing their department. Town council has received emails about, Town council has received emails about this proposed ordinance from approximately 1% of the town's population, and the predominant complaint has been about noise from GPLBs. A new GPLB ordinance might be unnecessary if the town's existing noise ordinance were modified in order to address this concern. I believe we can do better and take a more measured first step in addressing the concerns that have been raised about GPLBs. And that is again from Eric Tunham. And again, some of these I agree with. Some of mostly the verbiage updates. I'm not going to let enforcement be the tail that wags the dog here. I think we pass ordinances and whoever we designate to enforce them has that responsibility. Again, I'm hoping for a lot of voluntary compliance should this pass, because I think that our residents are good and decent and want to follow the law.
I don't know. I understand what Eric is saying. At the same time, saying that we've only heard from 1% of the population, I think is a red herring, because like, of course, people who care about this the most are going to write in, right? So obviously this is a topic a lot of the population cares about. So I don't know that 1% is a good evaluation of how people feel about this. But I do agree that putting back electric could be a good compromise to get this through.
What do you mean putting back electric?
Being able to not restricting electric at all.
So I have to say earlier, based on Hillary's comments, I feel a little bit sandbagged because this was never discussed in bylaws and ordinances, but I'm going to take the high road and propose that we change, keep the restriction and make it a little bit less restrictive. And I'm wondering if anyone is willing to compromise on changing the hours from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. For section 3.2 and keeping 12 to 4 Saturday and Sunday, but it does include federal and state holidays, all hours. There's no electric allowed. So that gives people, I don't know, 12 to 14 days when they're on a long weekend with their family, having absolutely no noise, peace and quiet. And if you look at the municipal powers and why we're doing this is to protect public health, safety, convenience, general welfare, peace, quality of life, property values, and facilitate the enjoyment of natural attractions and tranquility of the town. So I'm wondering if people are open to a compromise. And I know this had been mentioned earlier, so that landscapers can start with electric at 8 a.m. instead of 10 a.m.
Any thoughts?
I don't
It was
think,
discussed
yeah.
in committee, actually.
Yeah.
In fact, it was brought up, but that's beside the point, so.
I'm agreeing with Eric on this point. I think we should not restrict electric.
Well, it wasn't discussed in committee to take that section out. It was discussed changing it from 8 to 4. But this is a result of, not communicating this before this meeting, but that's okay.
Yeah,
You guys
that's
have
just-
your own political process and your own caucus, and I totally respect that.
Kim,
But
that's
I'm just looking to
false.
see if there's a compromise.
It's just false. It definitely came up. It's something to discuss. You are not being sandbagged. I know you want to get a shot at me. It's not. You
not
and I
trying to get a
agree
shot
on
at
like
you. It's
90
just that-
Can I
Yeah,
finish, please?
yes.
I'm trying to reach a compromise where we can get people on board. Again, if we come out of the summer season and people are like, the cacophony of electric blowers is too much, we revisit. I think a slow and steady approach is the way to go and to get some voluntary compliance here. I also want to say to Ms. Horwitz, she's probably not listening anymore, but I grew up a mile away from a Navy airfield, and it can be ear-splittingly loud. And I used to watch them take off from my bedroom, like a whole thing. So I thank her husband for his service, and I hear you. I think I would say, having grown up with a military father right near a military airfield, gas-powered leaf blower noise is worse. I did not have fumes from the planes. It was brief, like Ms. Horwitz mentioned. I think that gas-powered leaf blowers are a sort of a special
animal.
subset. It's
Yeah.
a different noise. It's a different quality of, or lack of quality of noise, actually. The pollutants are just terrible. So I think to
Can I
really
just say
address
something
this,
here?
we would.
And when people talk about cost and how it's going to cost a taxpayer more to buy electric, I think of it as what's the cost of your quality of life. I mean, that's really important. I mean, you got to quantify. It's hard to quantify that, but at the same time, people move to New Canaan for the quality of life and peace. And if they can't get that, that's really something we should take in consideration.
And I appreciate your willingness to make it earlier. Again, I to Mike's point, I think that might complicate it. I think that creates more enforcement. It's like people are going to be calling the police if something is after 4 instead of, I don't know. I think we would have to be consistent. But this is just, additional thinking.
But the simpler, the better. I think that's the key to compliance. Like Mike was saying, the best laws are the ones that are easy to follow. I think the restrictions with the hours and everything, that's why it's better to take out the electric restriction, in my opinion, anyway.
And I'll say the first draft I did of this ordinance, I banned both, or I didn't ban. It was written to restrict the use of any leaf blower at all in the summer. So I feel like you kind of have to do one or the other. And this seems to be like a good compromise.
Yeah, I think, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, Jen.
So I'm not trying to cut off any more conversation, so definitely keep coming, but can you explain like what I know we're not voting tonight on this ordinance and we don't have everybody here, but what is the next step? Do we vote on some language together tonight, or like what happens next?
We could go section by section and take a vote on proposed edits, and then I can edit that and we can address it again in May, which again, we'll probably have to change the effective date. So I apologize to everybody sitting here and who's invested so much time in this. But we want to get this right. So the effective date might move to June.
It's finish line. We are trying.
Yeah, but we have to give, we are trying. But we have to give people adequate notice that this would be going into effect. Our next meeting is in May. Perhaps we could do a special meeting in between if we can get our act together. But would you guys like to go section by section and we can just say if,
I wasn't finished.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. So I think it is simple the way it is. And when we discussed this in committee, in bylaws and ordinances, no one focused on this issue. The only issue that I heard was change it from 8 to 4. And now there seems to be a switch to take out electric altogether. So there's no restrictions based on acreage. So 5 electric blowers could be blowing on holidays. They could be blowing on Saturdays, Sundays, from 8 to 6 on Saturday, 10 to 4 on Sunday, and Labor Day and 4th of July and all those holidays. And they can start at 7 and end at 7 p.m. So I'm just going on record as saying that I think that we're leaving the residents out that are interested in peace and quiet for their children and for their lives and for their entertaining and everything that they want to do. So I think it's a big ball drop, or we're dropping the mic big time, because we are apparently seems like most of the people here want to take out any restrictions on electric. So I'm just going on record as saying that I think we're not responding to the residents that have written into us. So
Thank you. Any further general commentary before we look at this section by section? Okay, so I'm just gonna, section 1, are there any proposed edits to the declaration of policy? Seeing none, okay, in definitions, I would propose to amend this definition to include what Kim had said, which is to broaden the definition. We could even, for gas powered leaf blower, just say means any, strike any backpack or handheld and just say means any leaf blower that is powered by an internal combustion engine.
Yeah.
Utilizing gasoline, diesel, or other similar fuel, because then we're not, then again, it's like, oh, well, I have one that I can wear on my head. I don't know. I mean, it invites, right?
Your existing ordinance, motorized equipment or machinery with engines powered by electricity, gasoline, or other fuel products such as, and go along this. So we're going to need to go back and get into this unless we incorporate this into one ordinance.
I'm not sure that's true, because that definition encompasses electric and this might not address electric. So this would just be specific, this one would just be specific to gas powered, and maybe it gets folded into the noise ordinance. I think that's something to consider.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I don't know what, I don't have a draft, I don't have an ordinance number here. Because
look up 36A-3.
Yeah.
It just seems like we're duplicative in areas where we don't need to be.
Okay. But for the moment, can I strike any background from the definition of gas powered?
And whatever you just said about anything with internal, what's the expression, internal combustion engine?
utilizing gas, diesel, or any other similar fuel.
Yeah, I would just strike the any handheld or
Here it is, sorry.
any backpack or handheld.
Exactly.
Okay. I guess I'll sort of italicize in my mind the definition of electric leaf blower, depending on how we address it in section 3. Summer season, okay, and noise ordinance. Any further edits to definitions that anyone has? Okay, great.
Can I just say,
Yeah.
So we're not going to change summer season if we're delaying this from getting passed. This is going to be the regular thing going forward.
That's a very
starting Memorial Day.
That's a very good question. On section 7 at the very end, which we'll get to, has an effective date.
Okay,
So it
got
would
it.
be for the, if we move the effective
Yeah.
date, it would be for the following year.
Okay, got it.
Okay, section 3, restrictions on leaf blower use. And this talks about how the use of gas powered leaf blowers would be prohibited in the town of New Canaan during the summer season as defined in section 2. All right, subsection 2. Can we just take a poll on who would want to keep the electric time restrictions and who would not? Who would want to keep it?
Say it again, phrase it
Would want-
again.
How many of us would want to keep in the next iteration of this draft, the time restrictions on electric leaf blowers?
Do we need to put 7 to 7, make it the same as the noise ordinance? So that's very clear, but I mean, you can't blow at night anyway, right?
I mean, I would just strike any reference to electric leaf blowers in this whole ordinance and just make it about gas powered leaf blowers.
Agree.
For now. Kim to keep. So can I just get a show of hands of who would want to, who would want to delete these restrictions on electric? Penny's abstaining. Is anyone else on?
Sorry.
Who wants
Is Heather
delete
on?
number
Spacing
two?
out here, sorry.
She wants to know if we can delete number two, the restriction on
Do
electric.
we have a quorum?
We have 7. Did she respond somehow with like a thumbs up or a? Can I?
We have 7 here.
Yeah, we're
We
not
have a
taking-
quorum. And again, this is just we're not voting on this tonight. So we would have to have a public hearing.
Recommendations to the committee.
Yeah. Thank you. Yes, Penny. Okay. And then if we make just the restriction on gas powered leaf blowers, in the exceptions, I would change the general reference to leaf blowers to gas powered leaf blowers for all of these references. Is everybody okay for that? Okay. And then striking or snow removal. I'm going on the record as saying that Eric is going to have to take my children if it snows in June. And we've agreed to that. And then the last bullet point, I would add, do you want to say hard and or man-made surfaces, or does anybody have an opinion about that?
What's that?
On the last bullet point where it says single gas-powered leaf blower use by residents, should we, on hard surfaces?
Yeah,
you Yeah.
wanted to have man-made.
Yeah.
Should we?
Well, you said trampoline. That's what you were.
Yeah.
So that's man-made.
Yeah. I have a question.
That's what my kids like
about
to use
that.
the electric leaf blower on.
Can I ask a question about
Yes.
that? After you guys, you decide the language, can I ask my question?
Why?
Well, no, just because I want you to finish that one point. So you can decide about hard surfaces or man-made, whatever the language is. But my question is, not to throw any kind of monkey wrench, but does that need, if so we're allowing, it's an exception for the hard surface and man surfaces. Can we have some languages that say, and that will follow the noise ordinance, like the 7.2 or whatever?
I think
because you're taking out, the restriction A, B, and C. So in other words, if you're taking out those restrictions, does that mean you can use your gas powered leaf blower on hard surfaces anytime you want?
No,
on
because the
any
noise
day?
ordinance still applies.
Yeah.
This is not superseding or
Okay.
or being contrary to the noise ordinance. So the only reason, no, it would still be 7 a.m. to 7 p.m.
So I'm just going to ask this like as devil's advocate. You don't think anyone's going to read the ordinance and think, oh, that means I can use my gas powered leaf blower at 6 a.m. to get my trampoline ready for a birthday party?
No, it should be read consistent with the noise ordinance. I mean, if we want to really cover ourselves, we could add a 2 after 1 and say all provisions of the new, like this does not supersede or replace any provision.
Yeah, I
any
would
applicable
appreciate that
provisions.
going in there just for clarity.
This does not supersede. I'll get like actual legalese.
Where is that going in?
I think it's gonna go in under A, and it will be the new subsection 2. That like the noise ordinance, which we've referenced here, would still apply. Okay.
I should put it in the ordinance. So.
Penny, we know.
Okay.
That can be discussed.
What's next?
That's why I didn't say it any louder.
All right, well, I heard you. Okay, section 4 penalties. I didn't have any edits to this. Does anybody have any suggested edits to section 4 under penalties and violation of ordinance and enforcement?
No.
Thoughts? Now we're cooking. Okay. Oh gosh, where did the rest of it go?
Where did the rest of it go?
Nope, I'm good, I think. Okay. So that's, so section 5, public education and outreach. Community engagement.
Yeah.
Hi. Your favorite topic.
So I have some significant concerns with this section of the ordinance, particularly with public notices. we don't have email addresses for every resident in this town. And I'm guessing there's a significant percentage of this population here that actually doesn't, get notices by email. And if you are requiring a notice by mail, you're going to add a significant cost annually to the town, which I don't think is appropriate for this ordinance. So I would have an issue with that. And then with the community engagement, I think there's a nice compromise that Jen suggested. I don't want any shalls. I don't think ordinances should be mandated to be, there shouldn't be public education of an ordinance annually in any of our ordinances. I think that adds a huge onus to, I just don't think it's appropriate. So I have a big, I think there needs to be a lot of work on this section or a removal of it.
Okay.
So-
If we said, and I don't want to create more cost or, if we said, let me workshop this and bring it back for our next.
I mean, even the part
meeting.
that says use and benefits, you're basically kind of, it's very subjective. I mean, you could have people argue different points on this. And so I don't think we want the town of New Canaan having to, by ordinance, have to be annually giving workshops on this.
Got it.
Onerous.
Do you have a suggestion?
Just wondering if we could publish it in the newspaper it's going to be published in the newspaper anyway for the public hearing. And then the actual final version of the ordinance, you have a first selectman letter, it could go in the first selectman letter. And do you know how many people subscribe to that?
I think there's 22. I don't know. I haven't had a
2,200?
There's over 2,200 people, 2,200 email addresses that are.
But yeah, I'm wondering if it has to even be annually, right? It just has to be, people are going to get used to it. So does it just have to happen once?
That will happen because we have to publish it.
Yeah, we have to
Yeah,
publish
public
it.
notice is
And-
absolutely required of a new ordinance.
Yeah.
The I find difficult in an ordinance. I don't think it's appropriate in an ordinance.
That's fair. And I think we could have, or we could ask, and we have a conservation commission.
Yeah, Conservation
liaison
Commission.
who could ask them to disseminate the information. I mean, I do think I think that town residents are beholden to understand what ordinances apply to them, and it will be first, they first hopefully get some sort of warning if somebody gets called to their property, that I would hope that warnings were at least the first step, if not more.
I think it would be appropriate if this passes, this ordinance, I'm the liaison to the Conservation Commission. I know you're very involved with them. We could go the first meeting and present to them and start engaging them, hear their creative ideas for how, they might like to, publicize. And if they want to do education as just like a project for themselves and maybe go to Planet New Canaan, I'd be game to do that outreach after it's passed,
Yeah. Okay. That's a fair point.
Yep.
That's a fair point.
Is this not the responsibility of all citizenry to know what the ordinances are and follow them?
That's what I
So we're
said.
not reminding them, hey, go read your ordinances, sweetie,
No, I'm not suggesting that. I was saying that I think that we don't typically send out a letter when we pass a new ordinance. And so what I'm saying is that there is a responsibility on the part of residents to be aware and that that's your responsibility as living in part of a town in the social contract, right?
But there's a nice process, as again, as a
Yes.
liaison to these guys, if they often do, they sometimes do a monthly meeting on trees and health of trees. They could do
Yes.
some education that way. And I had talked to them about it in the early stages of this. So I
Yes.
think when there's an ordinance, it's very easy to go and say, help me, let's come up with, some events or lectures.
Yes. And my only point is to the first selectman's point is that we don't need to mandate any of that in an ordinance.
Excellent.
Right? Like that does not need to be a mandatory thing put forth in an ordinance. Okay.
Right.
Are we all, do we all kind of agree on that? think-
I agree.
okay.
I just have one thought
Yes.
of how to inform the landscaping companies, because if some residents don't inform their landscaping company. And that doesn't need to be in the ordinance either, but that's just something to think about, is how are they going to know that this is taking effect? And, so.
Yeah, again, I think you have somebody come on your property for any reason, and it's sort of your responsibility to make sure that they understand laws that might apply to the work that they're doing there. So
It's true, but some people are away for 6 months out of the year. It's just something to think about. I don't know if we could put a press release or send a letter to I don't know how many landscaping companies service this town, but just out of, to protect them from getting the enforcement, just because there's not always a synergy there. That's all.
But it's interesting. It's almost like there's a parallel case. This guy, who's been complaining about his neighbor's garbage man who's like coming too early. So, there's precedent for us telling a company, here's our ordinances, our laws, you need to follow it. Wait, garbage men are?
The garbage. We'll address the garbage issue. Let's not address the garbage issue right now. We're gonna, that will also be on the agenda.
That's another issue.
Yes. Okay. Are we good to move on from section 5? Okay, section 6, severability. This is a common clause in ordinances where if one portion or some piece of it is found to be unconstitutional or what have you, that it would be severed and the whole ordinance wouldn't be in the trash can, if that makes sense. Okay. And then the effective date will have to, so right now it says the ordinance shall take effect on May 25th, 2026, after approval by the town council and publication as required by law. Do you know when our next town council meeting is?
Yeah, our next meeting is May 20th. So I'm wondering, I would be willing to have a special meeting. So we're meeting on May 5th, bylaws and ordinances.
Yep.
So are we going to look at it one more time then?
I think I'd like you guys to look at the revision and then we can present it. We can probably put it on our agenda for the next town council meeting.
I mean, if we did,
We're done.
if we did that, we would be backed up against Memorial Day, and it would be nice to give residents relief. I mean, if there's any way we could do it like the week of the 11th to the 15th, we would have 2 weeks to publish the notice in the paper.
I agree with Kim on that. If we could possibly do a special meeting to give the 2 weeks.
Push back the effective date to a later date so that we are giving at least a month notice. It doesn't have to start. Well, it says Memorial Day, but it can't be retroactive anyways. So we can just make the effective date of this ordinance sometime in June, which will give people more time to get the notice and inform their landscapers. But don't you have to revise it later? You don't have to revise it. You can just make it effective, and then starting from next year will be for Memorial Day.
Yeah, if you just, this is only about when it would go into effect for this year.
I mean, I think people have been waiting 5 years for this and they're looking forward to it. And we've already taken out the whole part about electric restrictions. So I'm in favor of holding a special meeting, and it's not going to be a long meeting because it's just going to be a vote and a public hearing, right? It would be a vote and a public hearing, and then it goes, the charter says it gets noticed for like 8 days, and then we would be able to meet our obligation, which is, we've been, when was this developed? In November, I think? We wrote the first version in November or in early December, and we started discussing it in 2021. So, I mean, it's not going to be a long meeting, and it's going to be just one public hearing. So I propose that we try to push it forward a little bit.
All right, let's talk to the boss.
Okay.
And see his opinion about scheduling a special meeting that week.
I agree with that.
You too.
Yes.
Do we really need section 6 for severability?
Yeah.
Is not finished my statement. Is there not a blanket one at the bottom of the whole ordinance section that all the ordinances would have this kind of severability applied to it?
I think so.
I don't think so.
But I'll double check that.
Yeah, good point.
Because I could
We'll
see
check
where
it.
you would do a blanket one at the end of all the ordinances.
I've seen it in a lot of our ordinances. So
Listed in each one of them.
like just the process by which I did this, I looked at several
Yeah, no, I'm sure.
multiple jurisdictions to get language, but then tailored it with using language from our ordinances so that it would be consistent with the vernacular that we use and that sort of thing. And if memory serves, not great, but if memory serves, it's something that is in ordinances. Yeah.
Okay.
But
it just
let's
seems-
check. I'll
it
check. I'll
seems-
double
it
check.
seems difficult to me that you would just have a blanket one for all ordinances.
And we'd have to see if that's effective with our attorneys. That
Yes, obviously.
Yeah. Because it might be something where there's some weird nuance in Connecticut law that if you don't put it in every ordinance, it's not severable.
Well, but I mean, so I think it's,
yeah,
worthy of investigation because it's.
Thank you guys all for your input.
Thank you.
Really helpful. So we'll be taking this back up at our May 5th bylaws and ordinances meeting. Any further business?
Is that it for our agenda here?
I mean, so as the first selectman said, we have an Affordable Housing Committee public meeting on May 19th.
Where is that gonna be?
Lapham Center. And we'll be presenting the sort of general schematics for input. And we will plan on having a follow-up meeting with town officials, elected officials, to review our findings from that. And that's it for affordable housing. Any other committee updates? No. Okay, do we have a motion to adjourn? Janet? Oh, Kim seconds. And we've got buy-in from the audience. All right, all in favor?
Yay.
It was a
Yay.
productive meeting.
Yay.
Oh my gosh.